Right, thank you very much. I'll now hand back over to Tom, and we shall continue.
Thank you, Councillor Chalkley. The first question in relation to sustainable transport is in relation to petrol stations. I'd like to just briefly point out we've actually got a map on the wall which illustrates both operational petrol stations and closed petrol stations. So
which one?
It's the map in the middle. Thank you. So please feel free to have a look at that at the end of the session if you so desire. The question states, we currently protect petrol filling stations on major roads within Westminster. Should this approach continue? And if so, should we extend it to cover all petrol filling stations within the city and encourage the incorporation of alternative fuels such as electric car charging points, hydrogen, use of hydrogen and gas as well? So any views on that? Gentleman at the back.
Simon Burkett, Knightsbridge Association. I think this is probably as good a question to give this answer to as any. The one thing that isn't specifically covered in any of your questions is really meeting the need to and having line of sight to the Mayor's very aggressive targets of reducing CO2 by 60% and also complying with air quality laws in the next 12 months, 24 months and 36 months. These things are all going to require big changes in the transport system of between 20 and 60% in extremely short timescales, and either Westminster has an aggressive role to play as part of meeting those general targets, or it risks having things imposed upon it. So I would encourage you to build that line of sight into these policies of sustainable transport, because transport is more than half the problem in many areas.
Okay, thanks for that comment. I mean, obviously, the issues of air quality and sustainable design are issues that we have looked at other workshops as well, so we are certainly looking at a joined-up approach. But if anyone's got any comments in relation to those comments, please feel free to add them.
Petrol stations, anybody?
Well, one, I'm not clear from the map where there's petrol stations that aren't protected at the moment. I mean, it seemed like all the ones they've all closed, the others, and I don't know if the operation ones are they all protected. But anyway, in our area, although I try to discourage car travel, I mean, you do need petrol stations, and there's been a lot closed in West London. I mean, one closed off Edgware Road, so there's one in Bayswater Road and one in Harrow Road. I think down the road they've closed, so we definitely would want to protect what's left. Whether you can bring in a policy on existing ones to that they can't close down, if there is any, how unfair that is to the present property site owner, I don't know. But we certainly probably should extend it if we can. But can someone answer the question, how many petrol stations do we have that aren't protected?
Sarah?
Well, I can tell you how many are protected. We've got 13 that are specifically protected in the UTP at the moment, which includes one on Bayswater Road, up on Edgware Road, sort of, and they're protected whether or not they're in operation or not. So even though they've closed down, they're still protected in terms of any redevelopment scheme.
But where are the ones that are open that aren't protected?
That are open and aren't protected, I don't know, I'm afraid.
That's certainly something we can come back to you on.
It's a bit of a fundamental. Your question asked that. Should we extend it to those ones? We should know where they are.
Thank you.
Just to come back specifically on petrol stations. I mean, I think linking it through to my earlier point, whatever is the sustainable fuel strategy for London, whether it's hydrogen or LPG or electric, that should be facilitated as much as possible from, I would have thought, these sites which are specifically designed to accommodate large vehicle flows.
It seems to me that if they are closed because they're not a viable operation, then perhaps alternative uses should be looked at for them. So that should be enabled in policy.
Thanks. Is there any other comments people want to raise in terms of petrol stations?